We're talking Prey today. Welcome, welcome. If you want to come up and chat, let us know. Request. And myself or my co host will bring you up. Come on up if you want to speak. Yes, yes, yes. I'm very excited. You are listening to Predator Instinct. Welcome to What We Watch. These strings are beautiful. Tweet it out. Tell your followers we up. We are talking Prey today. All right. I think we'll let people just keep trickling on in. How we feeling today? Speakers, how we feeling?
How's it going, family?
How we doing? How we doing? Happy Wednesday. Happy What We Watch Wednesday. Trey, what's up,
Right?
baby?
How are you doing? I am doing fantastic and finally can join these rooms again because I watch these TV shows now.
Fun fact, Trey is quite literally a day one. Did you know that? Did you know that, Trey? Did you know you're my day one
Oh,
of What We Watch?
yeah. Actually, I do. I need to do a graphic or a badge to let y'all know that I am one of you, but I'm not one of you. But I am also one of you.
Now, wait a second. I'll pay. You know what I mean?
I love that.
It was giving a little aggressive, but facts are facts. Keep them.
Misa's definitely a day one just by default. Jamel, you're not a day one, but you are definitely deep in the game with us. So I'm very excited. Very, very excited. So let's jump right into it. Honestly, this is a shocking approach. This is a shocking occurrence in 2022. There is an expectation for the Predator franchise. And I want to let the speakers speak to what the expectation has been up until the release of this film on Hulu. Can anyone speak to the Predator franchise kind of expectations and experiences? Anyone in the room that has watched it, if you're listening and if you watched the entire Predator franchise or at least 30 to 70% of it, please clap and let me know. And if you're a speaker, let me know what the expectation has been for the experience and how long it's been. Jamel, Bruce, I know y'all been in the game for a while with Predator. I believe the real creature features.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with the Predator movies, it is there's a couple of central themes. I mean, it's usually a team of some sort, a collection of fighters or a team kind of concept, and it's usually kind of centered around that idea of team building. This was much more of a solo adventure, and then at the same time, it took it like wider out than that. And then there's also almost always a kind of a thing with like temperature. It's all wherever they're at. It's always like the hottest day of the year, and that was really a major emphasis
Right.
of most of the other ones. Whereas in this one, actually, it didn't seem to be that big of an issue.
I love that.
Although obviously they weren't living in fucking snow or something like that.
I also
Right.
think, sorry, hey, it's me. I also think it was interesting because I know usually, and especially considering the universe of Predator involving Alien, it also kind of drew in some futuristic aspects. Even with like the original Predator with Schwarzenegger having, them on the battlefield, it's a little bit more of a more advanced, a more complicated landscape. This was, kind of on the plains. It was, before the fullness of colonization of the United States, things like that. So it was interesting, I think, to see this story and this conflict told in that setting.
Right, right. And did you guys enjoy those movies? Because, you read any article about this film and people are like, well, the expectation was like, definitely better than all the other ones I've ever watched. Is that how y'all feel too? Bruce, Trey? Is it better than the other ones you've watched? Have you watched the other ones? I think Mies made a great point about like what kind of stuck out with this one. Not only is it right like this solo adventure, like David was saying, but it's also like in the plains and it's a woman, which we'll get to. But go ahead.
So I just wanted to let you know I'm gonna congratulate the franchise. I'm gonna lead with I've watched all of them, and I do enjoy them for what they are. I like this one because it's different. If I'm understanding, it's kind of a prequel, and so this is like one of the early stages of Predator. However, and I say this as someone who watches it and will watch it, we're kind of looking at the Predators kind of almost as like one of the glorified elephant hunters with like the big sticks. Because during like for the record, I enjoyed watching this woman kind of cook him. And in the previous episodes or the previous movies, it's like he got his ass handed by a Swedish dude in a mud mask. And it's like at some point he's like sucks at like scouting reports because he always gets done out in the same way. And so it's kind of like him, like, you know what? Her accuracy, her speed, like she's whatever. And for her to
Right.
be the one to cook it, I'm like, all right, you know what? I like this, but I'm starting to feel like right now he's kind of like the Paul George of the sport of the Predator world. And so yeah.
Right. Right. Did you say that I hate the franchise? I didn't say that.
No, 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 no. I
Oh,
love the franchise. I'm
oh.
there for it. Like
I thought you
I
said
don't.
I hated it. I didn't say I hated
Oh,
it. I just said that there were a lot of every time I read anything about this film on Twitter or in the little articles and publications that I'm familiar with, it's always well here's what has been the delivery for these films in the beginning, and here's what we got on Prey, and that's why it's just absolutely amazing. We didn't expect such a good movie. Now I'm with you, Trey. I appreciate the Predator franchise for what it is. And I put some tweets up at the top. Just when we talk creature features, I manage my expectations fairly well on those. And I don't mean that in a shady way. I just, it's hard. We have to suspend a lot of disbelief in creature features. That's number one. And then number two, it's obviously like a horror genre that I love anyways. But there are some great creature features that like have changed the cinematography, the cinema, landscape, the cinemascape, if you will, like Jaws. So I don't know, I think Prey was very bold, and thank you for reminding the space that it is a prequel. And I think that was so delicately done. And if anybody has any background or kind of cultural reference for the Comanche and the language, I'd love to hear from you guys too, because I want to know how you felt about that representation. Obi, welcome to the stage. I saw your hand up go pretty quickly after Trey was speaking.
Hey guys, but I just wanted to add because they gave it a lot of commercials, kind of promotion, and I think they didn't think it was going to do as good as it did. That's why they
Mm,
kind of put it on Hulu instead of like in the theater. Because after watching, it, I swore it could have been like a movie in the theaters. I'm a big movie person. I go see all the damn movies, but I think it would have been an amazing movie in the theater. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like the most watched like first day movie ever on Hulu now?
that is
Especially with like an all native cast and like as a woman lead role as well.
0 stars, no stars in this movie.
Yeah, basically new faces.
It's word of mouth and just pure good artistry in the movie. Yeah, Obi, you're in the right place. If you watch every film, this is what we watch. You're good to go. You're amongst family here.
I just feel as though I have more fun at the theater than like kind of in my house. I just like the experience. That's all.
Yeah, and that's something that is definitely going to become a conversation about how rollouts are happening, right? Because streaming is still a thing regarding, the public state of, public emergencies and COVID and monkeypox and all that. Hopefully those aren't weird words to say in the space. But, there's an idea of, okay, are people going to the theater? Is the theater quote unquote dying, which it's not. We've talked about that for the last 2 years. So I appreciate hearing someone say, like, I like the theater experience. And especially for horror and the subgenre of creature feature, it's almost necessary, right? If you look up in the tweets that I have up top, there's a creature feature, 1 point equals one movie. I have A Quiet Place up there, and that is like a must see, a must
In
watch
the
in
in
the
the
theater.
theater.
Oh my, it is a must watch. Crawl 2019. That was a special me living in LA. Crawl 2019 was a movie I'd never heard anyone talk about until I watched it in the theater at the New Beverly out here in LA. That is an amazing movie. I'm like so confident everyone in this movie, everyone in this space would have liked that film. It's Crawl 2019, and it's from the same director. I think, I forget her name or his name, that created High Tension, and it's about alligators. So the creature in that one is alligators, and you'd be shocked at how beautiful it is. But yeah, I really appreciate you saying that movies like this would have been beautiful in theaters, and that I know that the studio and people that were a part of this
'Cause
project
they
are
probably didn't have too much expectations for it, in my opinion, and it just blew them out the water.
absolutely, absolutely. I want to welcome Mess. Hi, Mess, a regular. Hi,
Hey, how you doing?
good.
I've seen all of the Predator movies, and I think one of the key themes is that we as man feel we are the apex predator, and so, and then there
Mm,
comes the predator. There's the alien that then takes over, right, and
mm-hmm.
shows us that we're not. But there's also that hubris of because we feel like because we're the apex predator, we get lazy and we get overconfident. Now this predator comes in and doing damage, but then they get lazy and overconfident, and they end up getting killed by, I guess, us. So it's like that. I feel like that's the theme if you go through all the movies, except for the one with aliens versus Predator with my love Sanaa Lathan. That was a little different, right? But there's also like the ritualistic and the culture and traditions that are placed in it, right? So
Mm,
the predators are like like they're going out to prove themselves as hunters, which is when
right.
you go back into like the Native American culture, that's what they do, and cultures all over the world. It's like you prove yourself out on the field and you come back with your trophies. So there's this connection of that hunt respect for nature that you see that as well. So those are a couple things. My expectation for this was none.
Mhm.
I didn't look at any
And yeah,
promos.
why I keep talking about the expectation for this film, right? Yeah. It
Yeah,
was not low or
yeah, there was
non-existent.
like, yeah, I wasn't even like, so when I watched it and I was like, wow, like as soon as I saw the first shot, I was like, wow, like this is different. And it
Right.
really, it grabbed, but it held me because I immediately understood like where they were going with it. And I was okay with that. Like it kind of took me also back to Apocalypto. And
Right.
so I was like, all right, I see the similarities, but I'm gonna let it flow and I'm gonna enjoy it. And I did.
What that's music to an artist's ears, right? A filmmaker's ears. It held me. It captivated me. I was like, "Oh, this is different." Like, what an honor. I mean, I'm sure Dan would just love to hear that. So that's we really appreciate that. Bruce, welcome, my boy.
Hey, okay, so I have to go ahead and preface this with saying that
Oh, good.
all sitting down. I am not a native to the Alien versus Predator like franchise, and honestly, I don't remember watching a full movie of any of the movies in the franchise.
Oh,
And
Mies
what
has
what
expressed her distaste.
what I love though is the fact that this held its own as a individual movie. Like, I love movies that are part of a franchise where you can watch it as a standalone movie and you can be like, okay, I get this, I enjoy this, I'd like to see more. Also, back to what Mess was saying about the Predator, because, like, to my recollection or to my knowledge or whatever, like, these niggas just keep coming down here, and like this was like the first time that one of them came down here. So I was like, what if this was like, like Greg from accounting, and he like fucked up on a TPS report, and they were like, oh, you got to go to Earth now, and like he was just down there, and then he gets his ass whooped, and like then he has to go back home, and that's what started these people just keep coming down here. Like, I was just thinking about that when I was watching the movie. Like, he probably don't even want to be here. Like, this. So, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one, and I love to talk about all the other stuff. So yeah, keep going.
Yes, Dre, what's up, baby? Welcome to the stage.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been on the stage, I think since the Batman, and I think I know it's been a while. But it reminded me of this movie that the Batman in theater is one of the things that remember you were saying back then was how much the sound was such a big part of the movie.
Right.
And with this movie, I would love to see it in theaters just for the sound. I mean, the opening, not opening, but like the beginning is just like the Naru throwing the axe and just like, all right, we're in this empty or back in time, it's empty, hasn't been settled, not a lot of civilization, quote unquote civilization, right? It's just the land and the people who are on the land. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was just how much the sound really added to the movie as you were going, and the tension it was creating throughout the entire movie. My expectations for this movie, once I first saw the first trailer, I was sold on the concept. I was like, okay, we're doing it. It's not this is hopefully it's just kind of just this concept, not all the extra stuff that sometimes Prince to throw in. It was a pretty simple story, and I think simple was better, and it hit the kind of hero journey story beats, and it was there, and
exactly.
Again, I think it was just keeping it simple, keeping it to this one thing was very, very much what added to the movie. I think for me, the protagonist of this movie, probably my favorite protagonist of all the Predator films.
There you go.
Is someone I can root for the entire time. I think too long, but like the original Predator movie for me was the protagonist. You get the jacked up dudes, but like you kind of know them outside the movie franchise. It's like, oh, I'm rooting for Arnold. I'm rooting for Carl Weathers. I'm rooting for Jesse Ventura.
Relying on those stars, right?
And this movie's like, oh, I'm just interested in this character and her brother, and by the end of it, I was yelling along with her. I was like, yeah, that's where we go, at the end. So definitely was an enjoyable experience.
Absolutely, Dre, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, to your point of just like kind of simple can be like a negative or a positive thing, right? People use, oh, it's too simple, boring. But in this way, the simplicity like really made it such a great movie because it's like, just take me to the story. Give me a solid 90 minutes where I'm invested in the character and not just the actor, right? I'm invested in the character. I mean, it's hard when you do a prequel. Think about the other prequels that you've seen. Did you love that more than the other films? Probably not. But think about that. If you guys have a prequel that you loved more than the rest of them in the franchise, let me know. Or even a sequel. But I think that's what made this one so good because it was like you were invested in this woman. You were not invested as her as a star, as an actor. You're invested in this woman. And it's a creature that we're semi-familiar with. Like, we're pretty familiar with Predator. When you say Predator amongst conversations, we're like, oh, yeah, we get it. We've seen it. We know what's going on. But it still made it, like, novel and exciting and terrifying, which is what you need for a creature. So, Mies, go ahead.
I literally just put my hand down. But I was also looking at one of the pinned tweets at the top, and I think it's from Lockie Chase, Video Vamp. Just looking at the fact that I love that the word hubris has already been thrown around, but I think that one of the things that I enjoyed about this is I felt like we were a little bit closer to the Predator this time. Like, it wasn't as distant. He wasn't that far off of like being like this super advanced alien race that was doing all these things. And I don't know if that's a result of us having seen all the other Predator movies, or if it's because they actually use like the actor in costume. And I know that they still did CGI in the face. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying yes. Like you're on point. Like it was on purpose. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I really did enjoy that, and I think that that kind of brought the hubris kind of closer to home. The idea of, and then also having those trappers there, so you're seeing like the hubris of power, not just like the hubris of humans or the hubris of predator. You're seeing the hubris of power because you're seeing the trappers thinking that they're at the top of the food chain and that they're gonna, kill these buffalo and disrespect and violate the culture of the natives there, and then they're getting their asses like literally sliced the fuck up. So it was just very interesting to me, kind of like how there's layers of the themes that we're used to seeing from predator movies. Like obviously when the predator loses, there's some hubris to be accounted for there, but I think that the way they did that here was very different, and again it's kind of layered. So that was one of the reasons why I liked it better as a prequel than the other films.
Right. I love that. I have more to say on that too. But David, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just the aspect of it that made this entry so strong has been one that I've constantly been talking about. I always remember Denzel Washington a while back. I wish I could remember where that excerpt came from, but somebody had asked him about being black in movies and where the roles, white roles, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something to the effect of that. I don't need necessarily that to have a role written to be black. My blackness makes it black by proxy. And I always thought about that in terms of the ways that I think, much like when you mix certain things into others, then it never really is one or the other anymore. And in that way, with this same movie, when you inject not only just representatively, like from an individual perspective, a person in there of a certain identity, but then you back that person up with their culture as well. The way it changes almost everything you know about that story is exactly why this movie to me just jumped out in the way that it did. A lot of the stuff that feels refreshing is directly tied to cultural aspects that had to be changed because the whole surface area changes when you're talking about that specific culture. The whole way in which they approach the hunting aspect of it changes from the more Americanized. Most of the time, these movies were dealing with American soldiers or the military complex of some kind, and specifically American military complexes. And so when you change that, and now it's just Native Americans and everything that comes with being Native American and how they think tribally and all those things, it changes the whole way your movie's moving. It changes the whole way your movies, your plotting, all of these things. And then on top of that, to have it be a woman, those two things combined again, everything that a woman brings, it naturally changes the landscape of how she fights, from everything from physically how she fights to emotionally how she reacts to all this stuff going around. It's why I think we need to argue for more. Not only does it do all the things we're talking about for the people, but actually it tells better stories inherently.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think just to bridge what both you and Jamise were saying is that like it's the way it's shot too that helps tell this story. I mean, Jamise, you were talking about being close to it and being closer to the predator and kind of, filling in that hubris and like where that hubris is placed. And Dan intentionally filmed this not on a soundstage. This was all filmed in Canada, outdoors. So a lot of what you were seeing was very real, and you felt close to the characters and close to the growth, and they told the truth about Comanche culture as much as they could, but Comanche culture with respect to also anti-whiteness, right? Like Mies, you brought it up, right? Like, okay, like this power within these people that thought they had prey down pat and they didn't, or the predator down pat and they didn't. And I think that was so good. I was so relieved that there was no kind of, tiptoeing around that the white people are in the wrong. They did not shy away from that at all. They fully committed to that through the end of this, from the time they introduced them to the end of the movie. And guys, when I tell you, I realized I heaved a breath of like relief because I was like, oh my God, thank goodness they didn't try to like sugarcoat the whiteness around like going on indigenous lands and going after like unknown things. They told the real story, and they filmed it with, you know, beautiful close-up shots of the Comanche and beautiful close-up shots of Predator to really kind of like, and then like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like the white people we never really sat with the white people too much. Those Frenchmen, we never really sat with them too much. We just saw their guns, we saw their bruteness, and it was like, okay, yeah, y'all out of control. So I really appreciated that. Oh my God, I was like, oh, finally, you could do a great movie. You don't have to like tiptoe around the problematic shit around whiteness. It was beautiful to me. Welcome, the boy who wrote. Talk to me. Welcome to What We Watch.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing tonight? As a longtime fan of the franchise and as someone who like reads the lore, I was absolutely floored at how good this movie was. David Trachtenberg deserves flowers because he really took it back to the roots of what made the original so good. Like he stripped off all of the fat, I think, that the recent flops were getting wrong. And because the most recent movies were they were doing too much. Like there's a simplicity in the first film that made it so good because it was a simple story, but it was kind of the horror element of this unseen hunter, you know, tracking a group of mercenaries that made it so good. And I have to say that having a protagonist that was on her own spiritual journey and that kind of like fate conspired to make the Yautja her way of passage, like to get to the goal that she was looking for, was genius because it made the story align in a way that the most recent movies couldn't really hit. And so it was awesome to see that. And also, I got to give him flowers for, you know, the character design for the Yautja as well, because having it was like, you know, it was a bit different maybe than the ones we've seen previously, but the practical effects mixed with the CGI hit every mark.
Right.
And I think that having it so good at like hand-to-hand combat, we really hadn't seen that before because it was almost like it was mixed in with martial arts. Like it was really cool to see it, you know, in combat and just smooth and flowing like that. It was awesome. Like I can't express this how happy I am, especially in it. I know they didn't have large budgets, so for them to do that on the kind of budget that they had, like I'm so excited to see if they make more movies out of that. And they need to, because that's exactly what this franchise needed as a breath of fresh air.
I couldn't agree more. I said the same thing. I was like, so now, you know, thankfully for Prey, people might start to tap in. And not that you have to go and watch the rest of the franchise, because there's a lot going on there, guys. But I enjoy it for what it is. But now I'm just like, you know, let's keep down this path. What is this franchise? 30 years now? 30 plus years in the making? I mean, this is a huge deal to kind of reinvigorate this franchise and just kind of say, okay, well, we can go this route and let's get this same team that's doing this to make more movies. I love that. I love that. Trey, go ahead.
So I'm gonna do my thing where I just have to go down this rabbit hole of trying to figure this out, right? So, and it's not that I'm trying to figure it out; it's because I know the answer. It's just kind of fun to be a bunch of people and we just have this discussion.
Right.
We saw the same movie they saw, and they're getting all this acclaim, all this rave. They saw that movie and they were like, "This isn't even."
Put it on Hulu.
Yeah, you're right. We're going to put this in a corner. We're not going to try to sell it to Netflix. We're going to put it in this box.
Yeah, they lied.
And given a lot of what you said, and I literally forgot the guy who just spoke, but part of me feels like when we see like what they do to comic book movies and what they do to franchises, they picked a demographic that they thought this was going to go to. It didn't go there, and they were like, put it in the corner. And then now they're seeing all the other people come through. It's like, yeah, no, this is fire. Yeah, no, I don't have to be the main character. I can actually resonate with another character. And it was like, and also to your point, it's like to see like the white guys in this role was like, all right, you're just another former predator except now you're Predator meeting the Predator, and I am, as you see the juxtaposition of her literally like, all right, forget the lion, forget the tiger, I'm going after them. And to see this, we're like, I'm not the center, so therefore it has to be Hulu. It has to be Hulu. And they're about to, they're gonna probably win a bunch of awards from this, and then they're gonna go,
And
hmm.
it's going
Yeah.
to be a lot of lessons learned, Trey. You know, as my day one, that was one of the first conversations we had about just like TV analytics and how people are going to talk about your art and your TV show or your movie and how it affects, the landscape moving forward. And I think Prey is definitely, a lot of people are watching like, I might push back a little bit more on, the release of my film. Is it going to be a theatrical release? And how do we gauge that? And how do I push back with these studios that say, hey, nah, we, no stars? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to put this in theaters. So, we could just be clear. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. But I'm glad that we all, in a way, it was more accessible, just being, within this pandemic and this health landscape that we have. I think it was more accessible. So I'm glad that we have, communities like this and we talk about it. But it's definitely going to be an ongoing conversation of like, okay, there was something that went wrong here and someone was dishonest in a room at one point about what this movie is. Henry, welcome.
What's going on? What's going on? Just some quick general thoughts. Thought the movie was amazing. This is going to be one of those movies where you're kind of still trying to figure out how this worked and how it was a success a couple years later because, for starters, it's a prequel to a movie that produced not one, but two United States governors, which is crazy.
Legendary, right?
But I went into this movie completely blind. I didn't watch a single trailer, but the main thing that intrigued me about the film and what I think played such a crucial part in this movie working is the time period specifically. Like when you think about being a predator and, having primitive weapons and things like that, like I'm telling you, from the moment she tied that strap to the axe and was throwing it from tree to tree, I was in, like 1,000%.
Right. Like I'm hooked, right? I'm in there.
Yeah, so the whole lack of technology thing, lack of resources, I think is what really kind of injected new life into this film because you could have easily, like the last couple films had it futuristic, everybody got laser guns and jetpacks and shit, but people speaking to the simplicity of it again, like even taking it back to that specific time period again kind of hammers home that we're really going to examine what it is to be a predator and what it is to be prey. And like the whole theme of the predator not even seeing Naru as a threat ultimately leading to his downfall just kind of was that perfect bow on it at the end.
Yeah. And I think, I can't agree more because a month ago I was watching, all kinds of Thor, Love and Thunder. And then a month before that, it was Doctor Strange. And I got all kinds of sound, stage and set designs and, visual effects and all of that. And here I just have some flowers that have powerful potions and an axe with a strap, right? Like it's very that prequel, that time period really kind of was like, okay, we have to tell the story and shoot it in a way that people get involved, people get invested, and we don't have to use so much technology. And I'm not just saying that. Legitimately, they had to ford rivers to get some of these shots. Like it was a lot of dedication and hard work for this crew. And I think it's beautiful that we all just kind of noticed the difference, right? I forget who it was, but they were like, this is different. Like when you start watching this film, you're like, it's a little something, there's something unique about the way this is shot. And it's because it's a lot of natural lighting too. So there's no, there's very minimal, okay, where's the light going to be here? They're filming it over a few months in Canada. And everything, I don't know about y'all, but I felt like I was with the protagonist. I felt like Predator was about to come and get me, during the bear scene. I'm like, these shots were intentional. And Henry, I just love what you're saying. Dan, welcome.
Yeah, just great stuff so far. All the points people are making, really, really great. And just from what you were saying right there, I think one of the reasons why this was so effective is what the shooting on location and having a lot of practical effects. I mean, there was certainly some CGI, but mostly practical. Relative to something like Doctor Strange,
Right.
it made it grounded. Made
Yeah.
it grounded, and I didn't even finish Doctor Strange. I found it unwatchable because of all that stuff. Just the color palette and all that just doesn't really work for me. But I mean, people like it; it's fine. But this just made it more real when you have an obviously absurd story of a cloaked alien with swords in his back and all this stuff. But it
Right.
feels real when you have this kind of reality. But the point I wanted to make, going back to how they totally whiffed on not releasing it theatrically or not having a big marketing campaign, even if they were going to just stream it on Netflix, make it a big deal out of it. And clearly they thought the demographic things about this being focused on Native American women and the French colonialists are
Right.
bad, or all that kind of racial and cultural stuff. That's a really important part of the movie and really kind of elevates it, makes it interesting. But the movie also works as just a straight thriller that you can market it like that, and you don't really need to make
Exactly.
the part of the audience that doesn't want to think critically about what's going on in this country and what has for 400 years. Like, you don't have to market it that way to them. I mean, they
Exactly.
don't even have to see it that way. I mean, it's a shame, but it works on just a thriller level very effectively. And they really you don't need to point out the anti-whiteness part of it that you were talking about if you don't want to.
Right.
Because
It's
you can be ignorant and stay ignorant in the movie because it doesn't really point it out in a way if you don't want to see it. It's just another thing that they, again, it's kind of a shame, but they could have done that. And it could have been a big hit just as a mainstream thing. And for, the 35% of the country that's never going to want to open its eyes to anything. And then the rest of us can enjoy it on that level and at other levels.
exactly. And
Yeah.
what we watch. Heck yeah. Hell yeah, Dan. And I think that's what's beautiful too. I think I guess I would have framed it in a different way, but I appreciate the way you framed it too. But like in my head, you're right. Like, even if you didn't want to see the anti-whiteness and we didn't have to bring it up, or just kind of exposing that colonialism and the
Well,
issue of that.
maybe a better way to put it is it can be marketed as a straight thriller. And then
Yeah.
hopefully you're going to it for that. And
Right.
maybe you get something more out of it.
Right. And no, but that's what I'm saying. I like it. And I'm thinking in my head that also it was just celebrating the film in a way that, like, they didn't center that. This isn't a movie about, oh, white people are bad. We didn't have to do that. We don't have to tell that story in that way. We already know that. We already know that, guns are an issue. And I think that's what, like, was also being told as an underlying kind of,
It's not the Native American Schindler's List.
Right. Exactly. And we didn't have to do that. We're just like, we're showing that, yeah, your guns don't really matter against this predator, but this woman with an axe and a strap, Henry, I cannot believe you keep calling it that, but I'm going to call it now because I love that. But yeah, so I don't know. What, Henry?
No, I said get the strap like 50 Cent. My bad.
An axe and a strap. I mean, it was what is it called by definition? Twine? Is it like literally twine? Was that what it was? Rope, twine? Is that what it is? I forget what it actually was. The boy who wrote, I saw your hand up, and then Mies.
I think something good to point out also is, as we're looking at these series and these movies that are being made, like nowadays, how important it is to get directors that know how to direct and people that know how to write. It's a perfect example of when you have people, especially like culturally, for them to do what is basically like a native story and know how to write it right. But then also within that, you have an alien. So you have two different aspects that you intertwined almost flawlessly. Like, it's important that we get, and I don't know what it's up with these executives that don't know how to properly hire writers and directors, it seems like, but like, this is like a shining example of when you do it right, these are the kinds of stories we get. The stories that don't actually require like a high budget to hit the mark. That's just something I observed.
Yeah, I love that. Mies, did you have your hand up? You put it back down. You done?
I put it down, love. Thank you so much, though.
Bruce?
Oh, I was going to speak about, from the history nerd aspect of this, when I think I shared a tweet when it first showed up and said, the Great Northern Plains in September of 1719, I just was like, whew, all right, buddy, here we go. I know it's coming in a few years, so I was like, you know what? Let me see where they went with this. And then
Right.
when you saw the French show up, I'm like, all right, this is, I being culturally correct, historically correct in a fantasy movie like Mine equals Blown goes right back to what The Boy Who Writes was talking about with writing. I don't know if anyone else has seen what I've been griping about with writing, with my whole. I have a gripe with writers that write in bad communication as plot thickeners, and like this movie didn't do that. They carried the story without having to have characters like have that type of conflict. And I guess in a movie where there's, I mean, at any point in time, there's like 4 or 5 different antagonists on screen, versus the one protagonist. You don't really have to do that. But yeah, no, I thought this was written greatly, and like all those different dynamics are very small, minute things that may not mean something to the average watcher who wants to watch a Predator movie, but to people that it's important to.
Right.
And I think that it's always important to hit those marks, and they did very well.
Yeah, and before I get to David and Mess, I also want to just move into specifically talking about the themes here, and maybe more specifically the quote unquote villains. I always ask who are the villains in the show or the film, and why, and what you got from it. And I think the larger umbrellas, right, is like we have a nomadic people, the Comanches, and so we have that time period, like you're saying, Bruce, and then we have their, I guess esteemed or whatever, they're considered predators, which are the cat, right? They kept calling it the cat. And what was the other predator? The bear. So the cat and the bear. Then you have, the umbrella of the Frenchmen, right? With their guns and we need to capture this and figure it out, right? And or kill it, right? Like the dialogue was very intentional there. There was no kind of let's understand it, right? That's where our girl came in and she was like, well, if you understand it, you can defeat it, right? Which is a whole larger theme. But then you have the Frenchman, and then you have the actual predator himself, which, oh my God, to the sound design. What beautiful clicking, which is actually, what some predators really do use to identify. So, like, letting her identify some of the weaknesses and some of the, like, motivations behind what he was there, or what the predator was there for, it was beautiful. But I think the theme here is, right, predator and prey. And I just love that they had different levels and different ideas of, like, who was the predator and who was the prey. And I'm interested to hear what you guys actually thought about, like, who was the villain and who was the actual, victor in this. Obviously, it was the woman, but in what ways? And I really appreciated that, because like you guys keep saying, one of my favorite things to talk about is like the beauty and brevity. And we got 90 minutes of a complete story. And it was just, I was so excited to see it just go through and get to sit with some of these characters' faces when they're about to do their hunting. I forget the word in Comanche. I forget that. I wish I remembered, if anybody does. But, talk to me about the villains here in a little bit. David, go ahead.
I've thinking about what you're saying. I don't know that I've ever really looked at any of the Predator movies or series as having necessarily a villain. Always thought of it as this the whole thing was this kind of very natural man versus beast story that's just about what happens when 2 apex predators cross each other's paths. And it's more like, Mortal Kombat, but in a certain way, without, again, what if the tournament was just a natural thing that had to take place rather than setting one side as villainous and the other side as good. And so the point being that ultimately it always just comes down to them having to strip down wherever. It doesn't matter what time you're in. Most of these movies end with the people having to strip down to bare technology, to using, tying up a bunch of sticks together and making traps and shit like that in order to kill the beast. And I think what then becomes different and again special about this one is the ways in which, at least for me, something stood out. I felt like, I don't know, I love to talk to Dan about it, but there's that, it opens with the predator killing a wolf, and that wolf got him a little bit, number one, but the point is it was alone.
Gotcha.
And then I noticed how, number one, when you watch all of them, most of the other Predator movies, even while these people try to stick together, most of the time they're killed somewhere alone. He keeps picking them off, getting them off on individual side missions and shit. And in this one, right down to the last man standing or last woman standing in this case, they're communal. Every time with the Comanche, they were always fighting together. Every time he was fighting them, he was fighting more than one of them, and they were all right there. Not, oh, I'm over here in the bushes. This one is over back here in the jungle. He caught me doing this over here and all this other stuff. It was always like we ride together, we die together, we going out until the final point where her own brother goes out. Fighting with her and for her, and then finally it's left down to her. But the point was that this idea of community really even gave it another depth and another avenue that felt purposeful or intentional, at least.
David, yes. Oh, I love these discussions, guys. I'm having a moment. Yes, absolutely. And I love that. I mean, because we really did get to sit with a woman victor, which is very important to me as a solo kind of hero in this. But you're right, the community, and I feel like they relied a lot on the dialogue in that, right? They let the brother say, yeah, I couldn't have done this without you. And, I celebrate you. And in the end, they let us sit with her getting her moment in her community, in her nomadic culture with her people, right? And
and it's kind of named just quickly, but even in the dialogue, as you said, like her mother, she had the medicine and she was talking to her about that. And it gives you exposition before you see the act.
Exactly. And I think we've talked about this before in what we watch. What haven't we talked about? But exposition is so important. And it doesn't have to be this, trite dialogue, this clunky approach. You can have exposition that's simple, straightforward, takes about a couple of back and forth dialogues between two important characters, and you get the full story. You get invested in the characters. And I looked at that, I was like, 90 minutes? I was like, let's see how they're going to do this, because whomst among us, guys, how many movies have we been watching? Movies are minimum 2 hours. We're watching 2-hour movies. And when I saw an hour 27, I said, okay, we gonna get a full story. So yeah, go ahead, Mies.
Okay, I'm raising my hand multiple times because I think you and I specifically have had this conversation about the length of movies. Me, myself, personally, in a post-pandemic world, my attention span is a lot less. So 90 minutes is exactly what the fuck needs to be happening to me.
Right.
These 3-minute movies, y'all got to cut that shit out. Be brief, be bright, be gone. Okay? That said, I do think that also one of the other things that I really enjoyed was that, and Monique, you brought this up, the clicking sounds and like the scenes from the water. I also remember why I raised my hand earlier. That scene in the beaver dam, my goodness, like you couldn't really see everything. You could hear crashing noises. You got flashes of things coming in between. It was very engaging. But again, overall, this movie being 90 minutes, and if you do some math, that's not my ministry, but the people who do math, do some math. I still think that if you like compare it to comparably length movies, it was very light on dialogue, but you still got so much from it. You still got like the culture that she was working in. And when you ask the question of who's the villain, and I don't like to necessarily frame it as a villain because we all know that the girls love a villain from time.
Right.
But I think that when you kind of frame it as who is the antagonist, what are we fighting against? What is our protagonist, up against, and what are they trying to conquer? You also have to account for her culture. Like, and in a lot of ways, what Jamel was saying was that, they were communal and they fought together. But lest we forget, her mom was like, look, sis, let's stick to the medicines and leave the hunting to the boys. Like, that was a thing. That was definitely a part of, some of the exposition that you guys were speaking of.
Right.
So I really did appreciate that we got that exposition, we got that context, and the conflict of it wasn't necessary. It was quiet. It was not heavily addressed. There wasn't a lot of, like arguing with the mom, stomping out, storming out. I can do bad all by myself. It
Right.
was her just really proving the point and consistently being a voice of reason in these hunting parties. Like, hey, listen, I know you guys think that this is going on, but I just saw like a herd of buffaloes slaughtered and skinned out of nowhere. Like that's not the
That's
normal
not
village. It's a different
right.
village. Let's
Right.
go further. We need to go further. And I know that we're a nomadic people, but we can't, cover our heads to this problem. So I just really appreciated how much was done with so little. So the amount
Oh,
of the movie, the amount of dialogue, and also with the set being actual wilderness in
yeah.
Canada, like I appreciate how much was done with that. And I think that you have to account for that as part of your analysis of, the villain, like looking at how complex the villainry actually was and
Yeah.
how easily it was dealt with in so many different ways.
It was so delicate. Girl, I'm getting excited. I love this. I love what you're saying. Yes, yes, yes. Because also, what's beautiful is, and to your point of the exposition again that we were talking about, there was a very, very, and I didn't think we'd get to hear it this fast. There was a very, very, very some very, very powerful exposition in one line. And I mean, shout out to the fucking writers. This is how you fucking do it. There was one line that our protagonist said to her mother, and or it was mother or brother, I can't remember. I maybe need to have a second watch. And they're like, "Why do you want to hunt so bad?" And she was like, "Simply because y'all say I can't." And I said, "Now that's how you fucking tell a fucking
And
story. Now that's how you." And we don't need to do all this extra flowery shit. We don't need to pretend that women need to prove themselves. We've already kind of seen that, yes, we expect men to hunt, and you want me to be the medicine girl and the healer, right? The nurses in the war. And she was just like, "Really? It ain't much to talk about. I want to do it because I know I can, and y'all keep saying I can't." And I was just, my jaw dropped because I was like, that's how you fucking write it. And so
tell me,
throughout the film, I don't know what about y'all, but that one line carried me through the whole thing. I
amen.
was so invested because I was like, that's how you talk your shit. I
And
don't
quite
need a, go
subtle.
yeah, I don't need a whole bunch. I'm doing this because y'all said that I cannot. So the whole time you're following her through this film trying to get Predator, you're like, go ahead and prove these motherfuckers wrong, girl. Like, I mean, if y'all didn't get excited about that, I don't know what will get you excited because I was like, yes, ma'am. Go ahead, the boy who wrote.
So on the villain tip, I don't think at all that the Yautja was the villain. I think humans in general view anything that is superior to them as a villain. And I think like a perfect quote on that is in Jurassic World when I forgot the geneticist's name, but when he said that to a canary, a cat is a monster, but we're just used to being the cat. I think that's how we view it when we see films like this. So I don't think Naru, Tabe and the Comanche would have viewed the Yautja as like a villain. Like she really just saw him, like Naru specifically, like saw him as another hunter. I think the villain was the French colonials, and I say that because I remember seeing that, the buffalo in the field for the first time, like when she was tracking, going through the field, and she saw all those skinned dead buffalo. I initially had thought the Yautja did that.
Right.
Like in my head, I was like, but that's like not there. That's very wasteful. That's not what they usually do.
Right.
So like when she had that revelation that they did that, I think right there, that cemented the French colonials as really the villains in the film. Especially like when you saw what they did to Tabe, like when they had him, in prison and then like, cut his chest. Like that to me, like the Yautja may be many things, it may hunt, but they have a certain sense and code of honor. Like they're not, if you're not a threat, or you don't have a weapon to them, they're going to leave you alone pretty much. Or if you're like injured and caught in a trap, like they're, that's not sporting to them. But I think that David probably hit home or purposely put in there the buffalo scene, and then also the treatment of Tabe to show, what the Yautja really isn't the villain, it's the French colonials.
Yeah. And I mean, that was like a 2-second scene where they showed it, and then another 2-second piece of dialogue where she was like, "Oh, that was y'all." And did you mean David? Like, did you mean Dan, the director? Did you mean Dan? Or
I'm sorry, yeah, Dan Trachtenberg. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Dan.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I fully agree. And I love because I love asking that question because I love hearing people say, like, I didn't feel like there was this kind of villain, predator prey thing or villain in it. But I agree with you. I think for me, what was really, really fucking cool, when what I knew was I know what wasn't the villain was Predator. And I knew that when Naru was kind of like trying to level with it for a little bit. And I was like, this is really, really creative to me to kind of have this woman level with it, like, it don't really fuck with us if we are not seen as a threat. And do I, like, for a moment she like was kind of contemplating, like, okay, do I want to kill it? Do I have to? It doesn't, we're not bait because we're not a threat. You can't use bait with this. The whole strategy of these Frenchmen is not going to work against this predator. But I do see that this predator is an issue as far as like the way it kills and the way I was like close to, like, it's killing what we thought to be apex predator. I saw this, predator pull a bear apart, and I saw it skin a snake and halfway cut it through. And so there was this element of like, okay, this thing does need to be stopped and obviously beheaded in the end. But for a minute, she was kind of just, it was like a point of respect, like kind of when you have an opponent and you're like, well, I respect you. Like, I'm gonna have to study you a little bit. And so I really, really enjoyed that too. Dre, go ahead. Dre Horizon.
Yeah, I think for me, the whole prove it to everybody was the constant thing, was we root for her even more. And it felt like everyone, from family to, even at the end, I think, her at the end where she said, "Oh, you don't think I can beat you? I can kill you?" Right? The predator didn't see her as a threat the whole movie, and it was kind of like, "Oh, you don't see me as a threat. I can't, I'm going to show you what I can do." And the whole time, you're with her, the character, seeing her, level up her skills and adding more things and showcasing it. And everyone throughout the movie kept commenting, "Oh, well, medicine. Oh, you can track really well," from her brother. And even,
Right.
at the lion scene, it was like, you can do, you almost had it, but like you didn't bring it home. But your plan worked. You just didn't bring it home. Distracted, or whatever it was. It all kind of led up to the in moment where, that kind of cathartic release she had after I've showed I can do this. I've showed all my skills. She used everything, all the skills that she showcased the entire movie. There at the end. For me, I think as the villain part of it, okay, she's not protagonist, I root for her, but I didn't really like boo against the predator until he cheated in a way against Tabe, where I think in the Comanche version the subtitle was like, "Oh, you cheater," because they were kind of heading up back and forth, and they were head up to each other, and then once it got scared, it disappeared and then killed it and took it as a win. And that was the only time I was like, "Oh, okay, well, you gotta go now." Because now thought we were doing it all honorable and head up and the whole 9 yards, and nope, now you cheated, right. And you beat the second character that I root for the most. Who her brother wasn't. I think her brother and her relationship was really fun to watch, and they root for both of them because from the beginning he wasn't like overt, "Oh, you suck." It was like, "You're good, but just like you don't have it yet," or "You're a really good tracker, you could find it, but you gotta bring it home, or you gotta find the lion."
Yeah.
And it was a supportive relationship where he was different from the other kind of warriors in the group. And so when he died, you're like, "Oh, no, you gotta really kill him, girl. You gotta do it. You really gotta do it." And so when she finally killed him, it was one of those things where you really, really, really hard because you saw her development throughout the entire movie, and it wasn't like you said, this overt, this overt thing where I felt like, if you change some words of dialogue, obviously they get enhanced because she was a woman. But if you change some words of dialogue, you could really replace this character with lots of characters just saying, "Oh, you don't believe in me." That was just a relatable central theme that didn't have to be. It was enhanced because of who she was, but I think it was such a theme that was like, "Oh, this can be applied to, any sort of character that you can put in here. This group that she's with doesn't believe in her, and people don't believe in her." And so that was a really great relatable thing without being over the top.
Hasn't done something because somebody said we couldn't. I mean, I don't know about y'all. I'm not that mature. If you tell me I can't do something, sometimes I'm like, I'm just about to show you that I can. I wasn't even worried about doing this.
Big purr.
But did you just say that I can't do? Child, I'm gonna do it right now. Like, and so just I really Mies, I know you feel me. And so the other thing I want you guys to think about too, and Dre, thank you for bringing it up, is just kind of a theme around creature feature films. I want to reference Nope. That was our last discussion, and that is available on my Linktree page after this space too. But there's always an element in every creature feature where, because this is so quote unquote out of this world, or so, so quote unquote advanced, or this apex predator that we're not familiar with, that's taken out a lot of our people, there's a moment at all times where we have to know the creature's weakness. And I love the way that they let Naru be the one to find the creature's weakness. And I just love that, because I love that part in every movie. It's like, okay, can it see through this? Can it smell through this? A Quiet Place Part 2. If you don't make no goddamn noise, you're good to go, right? And so we talk about character development, Dre, this is what you were saying, and it's just the character development was so nice, because at first I didn't really fuck with Tabe, because I was like, Tabe, you shady as hell. You a hater. But then it came like, oh, okay, well, he's just protective of his sister. Then it graduated to, okay, well, he does want to see his sister win. He just want to make sure she don't get hurt. Okay, when, hey, you did good, girl. You was almost there. I ain't gonna take all the shine. You was almost there, but I got you. And so that's character development, sweetie. And we didn't need a bunch of chatting to see that succeed. And the same with Naru, Dre, you had kind of started talking about just her progression first. I hung on the words that you said about her improving, right? First you see her on the axe, and then within the first 15 minutes you see her, add the strap to the axe, and you're like, okay, she wants to be better on her own. She wants to make sure that she's good, and she's not just a tracker, she's not just medicine. She will grow and change and adapt and pay attention to how these predators are to fucking take them down. And that's character development, baby. That was beautiful to me. Mess, go ahead.
Yeah, so to me, the villain was actually the patriarchy. It's kind of like, and I'm wrapping it all into one, is like, you have her fellow tribesmen telling her, like, yo, you can't do it. Like you said, like, you can't do it because you're a woman. Like, stick to the medicines that you're used to, right? And so she's proving them wrong, right? And there's this hierarchy on that side. And then you've got the Frenchmen, right? And where they are, like what they're trying to do, and how they're looking at everything. And so to me, that's where I felt like, and again, I'm wrapping it all up, like, because it wasn't like this was straight up like, you are a villain. It was more like the overall theme of, like, white men, but then men in general, like, just underestimating these women, and not giving her the respect that she's earned. And when you saw it through I think what was dope is, like, you saw during the movie, everything she did through her movements, it all came back, right? So all the callbacks. So she used the quicksand as how she baited the predator, right? Like, she used that. She realized, like, yo, I'm right there. Let me go get him again. Let me get him there, right? She used the dam, right? She used her surroundings, her lived in experiences, to actually make it happen and win. And I think that's something that, again, like, when we talk about women, for the most part, that's what y'all do. Like, you do that very well. So that's how I saw it. I saw that. I think. I'm sorry. We'll say again.
I like that. Thank you for pointing that out. Like, again, the trials and tribulations that she went through, the shit that she kept going through, that's what made her more powerful later to catch Predator. You're right. That's exactly what she. Go ahead.
The last point. I think with the way this whole CRT and how there's this the white people don't want to erase what they've done in the past, and culture. I think that played a big part in why this didn't get theatrically released, because you're looking at these white colonials who are basically trappers, but they're going. You're looking at the history of the U.S., right, from that perspective. So I think that was one of the major points, in my opinion, where the marketing executives sitting around like, yo, do you really want to put this out there like that? Because then you got CRT, you got, you're going to have this whole group of people saying, like, we're against white people and da 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 da. And, do we want that?
Yeah.
I feel like, and that's such a stupid argument because obviously that's not the case, but it's relevant because being in a room with executives, that's how they think, and
No,
so I can see that happening.
and we could pretend we could pretend that don't happen, and that's not like something kind of implicit or whatever. But you are 100% correct, and they can act like that's not a part of it, but that definitely went into the bias or whatever the conversations were about where that movie was going to be released and how and when. Trey, go ahead, and then Mies, and then KP.
First and foremost, I want to say I'm so glad Mess went in front of me because I could not have said what he said as good as he said it. I just want to make that known
Heck yeah.
that he fired on all cylinders because that was 100% my my sentiment is like the 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 um the protagonist, if you will, it changed every time you looked at it, and then it became like when you got to Colonials, it was like and a good example of, oh, you thought this was hate. No, that's hate. This is just this is just criticism. Learn the difference. And you're like, all right, cool. But the consistent theme is, damn dog, this dude is an alien. He ain't even from this world, and I'm still having to deal with cosmic misogyny. And it's like, god damn, that has got to be some of the craziest thing. I couldn't imagine, like, again, I'm a dude, I can't imagine like predator coming down. I'm like, I got to deal with racism predator. I was like, oh shit. So taking it from that lens, it's like, all right, I 100% agree with it. Second off, and the reason that I respect her as a antagonist is, or y'all figured out protagonist, antagonist. It's like,
You know what? You're spitting it both in a way.
yeah.
You're spitting.
So I want to say this, and I'm just gonna just say this in my heart. I tweeted it. She a better person than me, and her spirit lives on because me, when I found out that, oh, if I play dead, if I play pussy, I get to live. All right, bro. Y'all be easy though. Especially when it was like, oh no, y'all want to talk shit to me? All right, watching that. Watching that. As soon as that person would have been, I'd be like, yeah, got your bitch. Yeah, do it, do the thing. Yeah, do the thing. Yep. He got a whole little gun there. Do the thing. I'd have been in the back yapping. And then as soon as it came out, all right, my bad. And just look like, I need you to understand, your writer's room and my writer's room is me. Oh shit, he gonna kill me. Wait, he ain't kill me. All right, cool. And then it's of a 90-minute film, it's 30 minutes of me pretending to be asleep. Okay. I want to make that clear. It's 30 minutes of me straight up. And so one, and I want to make sure that Miss Meese 100% spot on. I saw this, was like, you know what? This is perfect. This works for my attention span. I can stay in here. And I thought they focused on artwork. They focused on storytelling. They focused on the making things count. And I was like, bro, this is a legitimate film. That's good. Second off, that I'm about to go in here, and just so you know, I'm about to get in here. I really, truly can't stress how the disdain I have for the Predator. They gotta walk away with at least one film where they do the Predator like Thanos, where he just walks away with a dub. Because again, this dude consistently gets done in by the most non-tech of non-tech. And the fact that he actually got done in by the tech of his tech. And so it's like, damn, this motherfucker really deadly do right. And it's one of those things where I just need him to have a dub. I need him to walk away.
Is this franchise really anti-tech? Is tech the real villain here?
Well, no, it's not knowing how to use the tech. Here's the thing about it. He's Batman. Like, if y'all think about it, the Predator is Batman against 90% of the Joker. He got all this tech, and he keeps getting done in by a nigga with a stick.
Did we just figure it out, Trey? Thank you.
We did.
I'm just saying, it's like he got lasers, he got heat seeker. This dude been invisible. They couldn't even see this motherfucker for 95% of the film. And this how you still go out, bro? You garbage. You garbage.
That's garbage. Poochies, hot poochies.
Trey, here's the thing, and that's why I was saying earlier, I love that about Creature Features. You cannot end the movie until you understand the one, Achilles heel, the kryptonite of the Creature feature. And I gotta feel like that I committed to that. Like I gotta feel you have this futuristic, the motherfucker, the movie opened with the motherfucker landing. He's 100% camouflage. He's gigantic. They're
I got
building
him
with like
shooting rockets. He's climbing over. He's jumping
he's
over these branches. I'm getting
he's
creative
got
on how I kill niggas.
missiles that are programmed through his arm that go through his head that can follow different targets. I mean, we're talking. This is, he's got teeth around his face, around
Right.
those teeth. It's a whole lot going on.
You know
Predator
what?
got it.
I do want to take it back. I got one criticism for the film. One big criticism. I'll let somebody else go. I needed to hear the Predator go. I needed to hear him having fun. He was having the time of his life. He was having a ball. I needed the Predator going. I needed one of those,
Trey,
and that was it.
Trey, I cannot stand you right now. I'm about to do it.
Take me in.
What'd you say?
He tagged in because I think Trey started it off saying like he was piggybacking off of Mess, and now I'm about to piggyback off Trey because big purr,
I love it here.
Big motherfucking purr. First of all, I want to get into, because I think with Creature Features, one of the best parts of it is picking your favorite deaths. And my favorite deaths from this movie were the fact that, you know how they try to keep it real cute when women be right, because they give us so much hell about it.
Right.
Hey, when women be right, they be like, oh, he saw the error of his ways, he reformed, and now he's finna live. Nah, all the niggas got killed. The trapper that spoke, I think he spoke English with Naru when she was trapped, and she kind of low-key tried to save him, where she gave him the flower to kind of slow down his blood. And then
ungrateful. They was ungrateful.
Huh?
They was ungrateful.
Well,
for that too.
He wasn't all the way ungrateful, like on the scale of like being a whole ass nigga to being like just misinformed. He was just misinformed a little, or he was going with the whole ass nigga crew, right?
On a scale of hoe ass nigga, you're not really that much of a hoe ass nigga, but
right?
you're a hoe ass nigga.
A hoe ass.
He was like at a 6, and I only say that because
he wasn't a hoe ass nigga. He was just a nigga. Like that's what niggas be doing. So he was just being a nigga instead of being a hoe ass nigga. And then her brother, he was like, yeah, you got it. You called it. He doesn't see us as a threat. He doesn't see you as a threat. So you got to take him out. So you were like, well, damn, you putting your girl on. Like, you going to make it. Wrong. Got your bitch ass. Sucks to suck. Like, it sucks to suck. So obviously, I mean, I didn't cry this time, but I thought it was unique, and I thought it was interesting that that's how the kind of trajectory went. But I think Trey hit a lot of the things that I was thinking in my head. I just want to make sure we shouted out my other favorite protagonists. And Mo, I think I text you about this, but sorry, the American Dingo.
Okay. A legend.
Huh?
A legend.
A motherfucking legend. Sorry, the best hunter. Because she was holding it down, okay? Like, every time for a moment, I thought that she was going to, bark too soon or whatever. She chasing this big-ass bear. She's distracting the bear. She was a part of that community that I think Jamel Mia mentioned when he was talking about the Comanches being all together. It looked like she was alone, but she wasn't. So I fuck with that, too. My last little tidbit, not gonna lie, for a hot second, I was really concerned because everyone's favorite thing to do with a strong female character is to rape her. So I was very concerned at the point where the hunting party came back to get, like, they came back and were trying to, like, force her out. I was like, oh my God, please don't do this, dog. Like, there's so many more ways to have an
And they didn't.
They did it, and that's man, this movie did what the fuck needs to be done.
Exactly. And this is why I want to...
Y'all got me missing calls from Mama Mies to talk about this because they did what the fuck needed to be done. Okay?
And that's why y'all need to listen to women talk about movies, because these are the experiences that we have and the understanding and the kind of like, we experience film like this. Like, there are some tropes and there's always some things that we can call out that are about to happen. Mies, thank you for saying it. And it's like, please don't do this. You don't have to. We can say this, we can get the same effects, the same results in a different way. And KP, you're next. Thank you so much for waiting. I know you're new here, so thank you so much for waiting. But
tag me out. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that, Mies. A couple of things that I want to just make sure that we can talk about too is, this movie doesn't exist without Sorry. So we're definitely going to have that conversation. But what I also just want to point out too is that there was a point where Naru says, do you want to be comfortable or do you want to be alive? And that was when she was congealing the blood and, making sure that it was cool enough. And then at first you're watching the movie and you're like, why is this happening? Like, why are we saying this? And then you realize I made you so cold that you are no longer visible to Mr. Heat Sensor Predator. And yes, I gendered him. My bad. I don't know if it should be gendered, and so that was really powerful to me because at first you're kind of just like, she being disrespected, like even with celebrating her medicine, and she got to just spit her bars. But not only did she get to spit her bars, like, do you want to be comfortable? Do you want to be alive? Like, we are nomadic peoples. We don't live in comfortability. That's not what we are here to survive. And there was more dialogue in that later when the mom was talking, right? She was like, baby, we're trying to survive out here. We don't hunt to for show. We hunt because we need to survive. And so no, you're not gonna be comfortable, but guess what? You gonna live to see another day. And again, whom's among us? Sometimes we get into those survival modes where we're like, really, how you doing, Mo? Man, I'm really just trying to make it. I'm really just trying to make sure I make it. And those kind of common themes were really, really cool to me. But go ahead, KP. Welcome to the stage.
I appreciate that. Just a couple quick things because I did a space on this movie already, so my thoughts are all over the place. But just a couple quick movie tidbits. The scene where she's throwing the axe, that was taken from the video game God of War. The director was inspired by Kratos, so I seen an interview with him. That's what he spoke about. Also, a lot of callbacks to the first Predator movies. When I forgot who said it, when he said if he can bleed, he can die. That was said before. Even her coming out of the mud was taken from the first Predator.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of things. Also, an
iteration of that line in a ton of movies. If you can bleed, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also, this movie felt like DMX album. A lot of the Marvel stuff is really shiny suit, and this came out of nowhere and felt like really grimy. So that's the take that I got from it. Also, I forgot the young lady that did the movie Eternals. It had that same feel to it with the cinematography because she used she didn't do a lot of CGI. It was real places. She went to all the places with the planes and stuff like that. So it had that.
Chloe Zhao, yes. I hope
Chloe Zhao. Yeah, it had that same feel to it, so I can appreciate that. Also, I blame Marvel. I mean, not Marvel. I blame Disney since they own Hulu. So, I'm a big DC fan. So, I always throw my jabs at Disney whenever I get a chance. And then lastly, your question about a villain. I don't think there was a villain. I think that everyone was a villain or prey at one time. So everyone is a villain to someone else. So I don't think there was a villain in this movie because the lion that they were chasing, they were the villains to the lion that they were chasing, or the lion was attacking them. So the lion's a villain to them. So I think
AP that you're not saying that there's no villains, but that everyone is a villain.
Correct. You corrected me, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's a villain at one time or another.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, I feel like this movie, I hope that they get it. I hope they make a sequel because one of the things that I really appreciated was a smart protagonist, meaning in every movie, the only way a movie goes forward is when someone does something stupid. And a lot of this movie was decisions that I would have made or that a human being would have made in that same situation. And that takes great writing and takes great acting to pull it off. And then lastly, because I keep saying lastly, but this is super last. I wish they would have made a Comanche. I forgot, is that the tribe's name? I don't want to get it wrong.
Yes, Comanche.
Comanche. I wish they would have made a in their native language version and then dubbed English over it. I think I would have taken a lot more from it, hearing them speak their native language.
That's beautiful. I love that. Can I just say I really appreciate this parallel and recognition of Chloe Zhao, and because Academy Award winning Nomadland, once again, just filmed in the ways that Dan kind of filmed this movie as well. And I really appreciate you noticing that that parallel. That's good shit. That's what we watch.
Yeah,
But
being the Marvel hater that I am, I'm surprised too.
yeah, she did Eternal. This just like, again, just, I mean, Dan was so intentional in a lot of this stuff that he was saying about just having it on. And I believe that some of the lands that it was filmed on were like, indigenous people's lands in Canada. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you read up on it, there's something about that too. And to your point about parallels and just kind of influences, there's a lot of J.J. Abrams in this. And I couldn't help, if you don't know who J.J. Abrams is, think Star Wars, and think did J.J. Abrams produce Lost? I believe he did. Did he do
Yes,
that?
he did.
There you go. So again, this kind of common theme of, obviously this has some sci-fi elements. And again, just like, what are we fighting? Who are we fighting? There's a couple villains in this that we're fighting against and trying to prove ourselves. And I was just so relieved because when I started watching, I was like, this is giving J.J. Abrams. And there was a lot of influence on Dan from that. And you can read about that too. Bruce, and then The Boy Who Wrote. Thank you, KP. Thank you so much.
Hey, I am so glad that can you guys hear me? Yeah, I'm so glad I came in after KP, just so I can get my DC dig in. No, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. What I will say is that back to the beginning, of what everybody was talking about with technology, my original thought, and I was trying to be funny, but I was like, this is Greg from accounting, because he was getting his ass whooped by low tech, and it just a lot of the things that were in the movie, I'm like, this is a proto predator, like this is a pre-predator, like this is like the first person that showed up here, because I believe when she first saw him and called him, what did she call him? Oh my god, Firebird, because that's no Thunderbird, because that's one of their anyways, one of the gods or what have you.
Yeah, one of their the divine beings that they praise, or that they
right.
respect.
It looked like his ship was like, like he was crash landing to me,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I think that he was like just like some regular nigga from accounting that drew a short stick and had to go down to earth and then got his ass whooped.
You know what? Give me that movie right now. Also theatrical release of
right.
like how Predator got there. I need to follow
exactly.
his
Like
life.
why did you end up here? And
You
why are
of
you
all
bad at
Predators.
it? And like now you gotta have other people come clean your shit up. Anyway, but we haven't said her name. Her name is Amber Midthunder. She is a
Yes.
second generation actress.
Amen.
She's amazing. When I first saw her on screen, me and my lady friend, we were looking at her and was like, is this a spicy Aubrey Plaza? Because I was like, wait a second, who is this young lady? And when I looked at her, I was like, oh, we gotta research this. And when I saw who she was and that she's a native actress, I was like, oh, this is just kudos right off the bat. Like, this is amazing. I think she did her damn thing. She was in, God, what else was she in? I forgot. Something that I've seen before, but
it was a TV show, right? Or was it a movie? It was a TV show.
Yeah, it was a TV show, and I mean, just amazing. Like, I really, this movie hit all of its marks or whatever.
I'm so glad you say that too, because a lot of this CinemaScape, #CinemaScape, I know I'm being that type of film person, but we rely so heavily on movie stars, right? There's a lot of marketing. I remind everyone that I created What We Watch to highlight the artistry and the intentionality behind filmmaking, because when it's watered down and it goes through what I think is the diluting of like the industry part of it, you don't really get to sit with, kind of the decisions that were made on set. And, these kind of, the cast was very intentional, and making sure that the right Comanche culture, to the best of their accuracy and ability, was incorporated. That was intentional. And then look at the product. If you want to talk business, look at the product that you get from this. And I'm glad that we are having these conversations, because that means that we can celebrate, the Amber Midthunders of the world and really kind of highlight that. And this is kind of a common theme with, I was talking about with Michelle Yeoh and Everything Everywhere All at Once. You can have a groundbreaking, unique, beautiful blockbuster film, and it's an action movie, and it's not, y'all's fave Tom Cruise or a young man or a tall white man. It's an older Asian American woman. And these are exciting times where we're like telling the truth about what types of films can make a lot of money. The Boy Who Wrote, go ahead.
Well, Bruce, to answer your question, I'm pretty sure that Yahusha was taking part in like a blooding ritual. So like he wasn't crash landing, he was actually dropped off. So he was there to prove himself to become a blooded one, like as a full hunter. Because if you actually watch to the end of the end credits, there was actually a teaser showing a bunch of ships coming down, as if they were coming down either to collect like his body or like the technology that was left.
So are you telling me that, and thank you so much for that, are you telling me that he was like, what is it, the Kamutai? Predator was also there for his Kamutai to prove him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that.
They go like they will go like to random planets, and they may not even know what's on the planet, but if there's something to hunt, that's that's part of the ritual. Like they kind of pride themselves on, even if they're not aware of what they're hunting, like to be able to take it down. Like that's a part of their ritual. So but I wanted to actually touch on something earlier that Trey was talking about, because I think the next iteration of these movies, I think it would be a good turn to actually start having the Yahusha win. I think like maybe twisting things, maybe seeing it from their POV and their perspective and like their culture would actually be an awesome turn for the franchise.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I like that too. I mean, thank you for telling us the truth about, because I didn't think it was a crash landing either. But like, honestly, Bruce, I'm with it. If you want to write that movie, go ahead. I'll watch it. It's giving like Big Mouth when we get, no, I know.
Yeah. Hashtag Greg from accounting. It's definitely
right.
happening.
Like it's giving one of those like comedy, like, can we make Predator infiltrate the comedy world? But no, I really appreciate The Boy Who Wrote saying that, because I think that's where we get to experience like, okay, we said that we want more movies like this with this same team, right? With this same filmmaker, maybe with the same influences and the same carefulness, right? I think that's what the word I want to use is like the carefulness in crafting this film. And we can get that if we kind of follow the story of the Predator. And so we can stay in the franchise and we don't have to call it a prequel or a sequel or anything. It's just a different perspective within this same, universe or whatever the case may be. I think that would be fucking amazing. I love that. And we got about 2 to 3 minutes left in the space, in the spirit of celebrating simplicity, brevity, and everything. I think we've hit beautiful, beautiful things about it. Again, I can't close this space out without commenting on Sorry. Thank you, Mies, earlier for bringing that baby up. She was fantastic. And there are actually a lot of articles on how they kind of, cast the dog too. Amazing, right? And I love when movies have dogs in them, because there's like this theme of having a dog as a companion. So it signifies like companionship. And I'm just glad that we didn't have to go through a lot of grief and a lot of ominous kind of like themes attached to the dog, which is usually what you see in film. I don't know, go back and like think about a lot of the movies with dogs, and I'm not like Air Buds, but like other films where there's like a dog scene or somebody has a dog, there's a lot of like grief and tragedy involved with it. And I'm glad that we could just kind of see this companionship grow in a beautiful way. And, I was always shook of when the dog was going to die. But they really did that in a digestible way, I guess is what I want to say. David, go ahead.
Just want to say a quick couple of things. Number one, that and talking about parallels with, it was really interesting to me watching this and having just only watched like Nope a few weeks before that or whatever, because with both of the women in these films, it was a very similar arc as far as I was concerned, as there was stories being told about a father that was gone, who didn't trust his daughters to know the thing that they do know how to do, whether it was horsing or tracking. And then the daughter had a similar kind of shade of approval coming from the brother, who either saw her in one way, in the way that she talked about more even explicitly with her and Daniel Kaluuya in that scene, and how they kind of bring that around to the end, and they both kind of looped it. They both kind of looped that idea of something that the brother does with his sister, some kind of code or program that they have that they're going to loop around at the end when they win, and then the way that both of them at the end got this very big win at the end, and they're the ones who ultimately end up downing this thing that came from both of them from another planet. That was just very interesting to me how those stories lined up like that.
I love
And
that.
then the second thing being, I forget who it was that mentioned it, but the thing about debts, that's been something that has bothered me for the longest time. And I can't think of a movie that to me got rid of somebody that I didn't think it was going to get rid of, or a television show for that matter, that I don't end up loving sometimes directly tied to that specific trait. Like, it was one of the things that always bothered me about The Walking Dead is that they treated their members, that you could tell they had a core group, and they treated them much like Star Trek treated its core group, except for Star Trek wasn't really centered around death like that. So you could understand always some red shirt guy dying on a mission. But when it came to, by the time I got to The Walking Dead, it was ridiculous how many times these specific members would keep getting out of things because we need to keep them around. And I've just always felt, from Game of Thrones to Heat with Robert De Niro's death and everybody, even though we don't want them to, you do your story best service, especially not just to kill them off for no reason, but like when, for instance, the white guy that you guys were talking about, it was both Tabe. Somebody mentioned that too. I think it was me who mentioned Tabe, and how I thought that death was vital to the story, and to have that death, I don't know that this story was as strong if Tabe doesn't die. As much as I hate to have lost him, and the same thing with the white dude who was on the part of the French colonials. And the thing about it was that in another comparison with Jordan Peele, I was reminded of the way that I was so surprised when Jordan Peele offed old girl, even though she did most of those things that if in the hands of a white person, that white girl lives. She probably gets a pass for, even though she's been a part of this shit the whole entire time. And the same guy, you were part of this shit the whole time, and you're being semi-nice about it does not get you a fucking pass. And I really love that aspect.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. KP? Go ahead and we'll close this out.
I just wanted to real quick. I know people said they want to see the movie where the Predator wins. If you watch Predator 2 with Danny Glover, and if you watch it, just hold your breath, because them shootouts in LA never happened. It was pretty crazy. But at the end, because he kills the Predator. Spoiler alert: the movie is like 100 years old. He kills the Predator with his own tech, and then when he goes inside the ship, the other Predators come to collect the body of the Predator that he killed, but you also see the skulls, the trophies that he has, and it's a couple. It's like xenomorph and a couple of other monsters on his wall. So he's killed other monsters, but they just never showed you that until that horrible Alien versus Predator movie. But
Yeah. Thank you for that. Absolutely. And with that, again, I think in the same way that we have celebrated this 90-minute, quite frankly, masterpiece, thank you to everyone that's joined. Please follow What We Watch Film TV. Please stay tapped in. I am coming back quickly and swiftly and consistently with our newsletter to make sure that you guys are up to speed with what we're watching and what we're speaking about and why we love film. And I just love these spaces every single time. Everyone gets it. Everyone celebrates film as an art, which is why What We Watch is here. So thank you so much. Again, shout out Naru, shout out Women, shout out Sorry. And just, I'm really excited. Again, if you want to interact with the tweet, one movie equals 1 point, because I really, I'm excited about the conversations around horror and specifically this subgenre of creature features. I think in ways we sleep. I mean, I'm talking Jaws and Jurassic Park alone, right? I mean, these are movies that change the fucking game, and they're creature features. Right. So it's worth kind of looking at the history with like what blockbuster films are and what people, like what audiences are looking for. And here we go. I mean, I don't know if Prey is like Jurassic Park and, a Jaws level with just sound and, you know, I mean, we associate a lot of stuff with those films that we see as themes in other movies and influencing other movies, just with like having a, you know, the Jaws theme of, you know, whatever it is. I don't want to do it because y'all gonna make fun of me. But those are the kind of things that creature features give us, that horror gives us, that become like a language for us. And so I'm curious, you know, if Prey would have been theatrically released, what different experience and conversation we would have had. But I think we hit everything. And thank you so much. I hope y'all have a wonderful, I know it's a school night, so I want everybody to get some rest. And thank you again. Tell your friends. Bye. Thank you, speakers.